So I'm in the trailer by my sister's house. Here's Max. I'm asleep. Hey Max. Max. Yeah, hi. And my right testicle is getting pounded upon. It feels like someone's racking my right testicle, crushing it, and shocking it at the same time. So I can do this, and right about here, and they're moving around. Now I'm feeling the pulsation hitting my hand. And now it's moving around, now they're hitting it, it's blocking it from my right testicle, and then I feel pain and discomfort in my right hand, and I feel an electrical sensation. My right hand's actually kind of going numb, and they're also doing the frostbite attack on it. I've got a heater on right there. I'm this close to the heater. It's not, it's cold outside, but it's not cold in the side of the trailer, and there's no draft in here, except for if you're sitting right in front of the heater, then there's hot air blowing on you. But it's pretty weak, and it's louder than it. Actually, it's not as powerful as it sounds. But it's just a little heater, and I can't even feel. I have to put my hand right here to feel something, and that's still warm air. It's not over here. There's no draft. But like I do this, and then suddenly my right hand feels an electrical sensation, and it feels a frostbite, which is something that can be caused by an electrolaser and possibly some other direct energy weapons. So, and now my hand's going numb again, and my hand feels like it's freezing cold. This hand does not feel freezing cold. So I can put this hand here, and now it's getting the frostbite attack too. There's no draft here. There's no open window right here. These windows are closed. They're closed. There's no draft in here. And again, I was doing this over by the chair, right? It's hard to see it, but right by that door I don't use. That's the bedroom door. I use the door that's out that way, past the shower, in the living room, kitchen area. But there's a chair right there, and it's hard to see, but right there. I was just sitting in there, and I was getting the same attack over there. Again, there's no draft in here, and now they're doing it to my face. And they've been doing this thing also where they're pushing against. They do this thing. It's very annoying, and they push against your fucking face, and you feel like you have to do this all the time. And they're also commenting on it. And they're also going like, "Is that a sexual touch?" And so now they're on my right testicle. They've been on it since I've been talking. Again, I can put my hand here and block the attack, and now my hand hurts, and it also has a frostbitten sensation to it, and it feels like it's being shocked, and it feels like it's being crushed. That is not a mental illness. That is not drug-induced psychoses. I'm not on anything when these events happen, and that's not something that drugs would cause anyway. And it certainly wouldn't coordinate it, with the mental illness either. Again, this is pain. Aside from like the pain that you hear about them, depression hurts. Aside from that, mental illness does not cause pain. Electrocution is not a mental illness, Dad. You piece of shit. Like, do something. Like, get me and Max the fuck out of here. Again, I could not have known that the guy in 301 had my phone and hacked my Google account. I did not know the guy, even in a paranoid, delusional, schizophrenic state. Or even if I was given like 100 guesses, I would not have ever even picked that person because I didn't know him. I saw him in passing on the stairwell because his door was by the stairwell. And he's not the person that actually stole my phone. It was a guy that wasn't staying at the hotel, and I have no idea how he even knew that guy, or how he even got back to that guy. And that guy actually returned to me a phone that wasn't my phone, but it looked like my phone and was locked, and that's when the Note 7 had the recall, and AT&T took it back anyway. But when I got my replacement phone, I did a find your phone tool just to double check, because maybe I was mistaken, maybe just like I forgot the lockout code, or maybe there was just some problem with it. He'd kept it for 4 days when I left it in his moving van. Lo and behold, the phone was right on 301, which I have a picture of and a snapshot of, which I've sent to Dad and APD, and no one does anything about it. And the guy's email address from 301 was put in as my recovery email address. It was linked to his Facebook profiles and his Google Plus profile. That is not the only instance of premonitions that you would have to believe are premonitions if you also believe I'm schizophrenic. One does not become schizophrenic at age 41 without a history of present illness. It's just rare, and it just doesn't happen. And again, Other people in my house went schizophrenic before I lost it, and if they're not, and most of them aren't anymore, or the rest are still being tortured and terrorized, and they're in a subset of the symptoms that I'm suffering from. The people they're not announcing themselves blatantly to the people, but they're whispering to them in other people's voices, or they're whispering to people as God. Like one guy was like, God speaks to me and told me to come over and talk to you, right? When they were like, hey, this guy's going to be like Aaron or Rule, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to hear a similar story from him, and similar story to what you've experienced with special numbers appearing in jail. When they're not that special, they're just coincidences that they create. Once again, my hand is getting a frostbite attack. Now this hand is being electrocuted, and they're talking about it, and they're telling me about it. And sometimes they tell it to me ahead of time, but it's not my brain becoming aware of an impending neurological or nervous system attack, and then vocalizing it or imagining that as real voices. Those are real people using voice to skull and an electrolaser. So thanks for keeping me at square one, Dad, and thanks for keeping me in a desperate position where I'm even more desperate, where it would be understandable for anyone to resort to one or more self-help options, which could include, and this isn't a threat, this isn't a cry, this isn't like a thing, so don't respond to it poorly like you have already. That could include suicide, or could include other avenues, which I have vehemently refused to do, which you should respect and praise, and not ever allow someone to be in that position. Yet you actively push me towards it, along with the terrorists and the terrorists slash gang stalkers. You actively push it. It's like you're working with them. I know you're not, but you essentially are, by doing what you're doing and not doing what you're not doing. You are going about this the complete wrong way. I am not safe, and neither is Max, and that is not a paranoid schizophrenic thought. That is the truth. I am not better, even regardless of what Robin says. I had a hobo beard when I came here because I didn't have clippers, and my hair was a mess. Because I didn't get haircuts, and I didn't have money to get haircuts, and I didn't have money to get razors or to get clippers. So yeah, I look a lot better when I'm clipped or shaved or whatever. Yeah, I look a lot better. She's like, well, it looks like you put on some weight. I wasn't emaciated or anything. I was 20-30 pounds overweight. I actually have not put on any weight since I've been here. I'm about the same. I'm 20-25 pounds overweight. I'm about 200 pounds, maybe 205. I should be 180 or 185. And that's the same. I haven't lost weight or put on weight. I'm exactly the same. I look better. I look thinner. I look better when I clip my hair, and this isn't like some bushy hobo beard. But again, they're attacking Max, and they're attacking me round the clock. I'm being physically and sexually assaulted around the clock with electrolasers, and being trapped on a schizophrenic-like radio station that is beyond any schizophrenia that anyone has ever had. And it's the most torturous, dehumanizing, demoralizing thing. And that's not something that you should waste any time in rescuing someone or looking into while someone's suffering. You can look into it in parallel after you get me and Max the fuck out of here. Remember, you could be getting gang stalked as well. They don't normally announce themselves to people. When voice-to-skull transmissions are turned down to a subliminal audio level, it's almost indistinguishable from thought, or it is indistinguishable from thought, which is very manipulative, because they have been doing that to you because you are not acting rational or logical. Because again, I do not have the power of premonition, and that one example is the one reason why I give it is because I have proof of where my phone was and of the hacked account. I have screenshots of that, and that's something that happened very early on. He was the first suspect I listed, and APD still didn't look into it, even though he had an ankle monitor at the time. It would have been very easy to find and question him and press, and so he probably wouldn't want to fuck up his parole. So he would have parole or probation. So he probably would have been a very easy person to talk to. And again, an investigation would be very cheap to start. I'm only asking for an investigation of some minimal things. That should not anger you. That should be not something that you are an obstacle to. That should not be something that you refuse to do because I didn't give you a second contact. If you want a second contact, Google it your fucking self, or tell me I want a second contact from you, and I'll Google it myself and send you a screenshot and the information or a link to it, because you're too lazy to fucking do that yourself. You petty, horrible, disgusting piece of shit human being. You are a bullshit father, and you have caused me almost 3 years of additional suffering beyond, what I was already suffering before, which still didn't respond to some of the things that I was going through, even though you were great at first, and then all of a sudden you turned horrible. Again, probably because of these people. And they could be also the reason why your girlfriend is having mental issues as well, and substance abuse issues as well, and while you're having your own mental issues as well, like such as depression. Again, you are not behaving rationally at all. I have never done anything wrong, and you keep acting like I'm doing something wrong over and over and over again. And you keep thinking I'm on meth all the time. I've gone months without using, and then sometimes I'll use a week here and a week there. And before I went down to the valley, I told you, yeah, it'd been I was working, and then so this month I spent $40 on some minuscule amount and used it for one night. So what? That didn't cause the previous 3 years of suffering. That was a self-medication or coping mechanism for what I was going through. Duh. And even if I am schizophrenic, most people that are schizophrenic do self-medicate. That is understandable. And you are such a piece of shit for the way that you've treated someone. If that's the way that you treat someone going through with disabilities, and that's the way you treat someone that's been a victim of assault, terrorism, theft, kidnapping of my dog, a filing of a false police report against me, again, you're a fucking liar, and or that nurse is a fucking liar. Because again, they don't do levels in your blood, and first of all, they didn't take my blood or piss. Now when they knocked me out, maybe they did, but I didn't have any marks on my arms. So my shorts had a urine stain to them, so maybe they put a catheter in me. They could have done that, maybe. And if they did do that, again, that only shows that that's been used within 3 to 5 days, which again, I was honest about and told you that I had. But I wasn't high. I wouldn't leave the house high. And don't say it has lasting impacts. No, it does not. Not when you use in those small amounts. Staying up for days at a time does have an impact on someone's mental state, but not when you're sleeping every day or day and a half. The only time I had problems sleeping, which is because of them. If I was high in meth, I would be watching porn and jerking off, or not, and jerking off in my bed. Which I couldn't even do that anymore, because when I did do that, I only got a few seconds of relief, and then they still don't even do the pleasurable shit or leave me alone, which they never leave me alone. They still do the pain shit and the torture shit, which they were still doing anyway, but at least they were doing it in a more pleasurable way or a less painful way. So I do not love you, and I will never love you ever again, because you've been such a hateful, disgusting, spiteful, petty person. I did nothing wrong. I was under attack. I was literally seizing in front of multiple police officers during that 24-hour period, and they literally did nothing. I finally at one point asked to be taken to the hospital, then I left, and then I called the cops again, because it literally felt like there were electrified needles, 10,000 needles, going through my face. It literally felt like my gums were being stabbed with electrified needles, or lightning bolts were going through them, and my teeth were hurting as well. And they kept increasing it and increasing it and increasing it. Again, I was not on anything. The prior usage had already gone down. It almost went down immediately after using that. And again, I wouldn't have left the house high. I was trying to leave the house because of that shittier timeline comment that you did. I thought, oh, he's looking into that. And again, they try to escalate this shit. And again, and every time they escalate it, it's I think there's going to be a rescue. Or I hope that there's going to be a rescue. And I'm they have to know. That has to be a signal to them. There has to be a hint in there. And I guess that is a paranoid thing, but it's a good paranoia. It's a hopeful paranoia, I guess, in some sense. It's a desperate hope that you're doing something. And if you are doing something, you're still doing it the completely wrong way. You shouldn't allow someone to suffer and keep them in a desperate box that keeps closing in on them or pushing them, towards a cliff to where they may resort to one or more options of self-help, which I have refused to do. But then you still accuse me of like wanting to bomb downtown Central Booking. No, Dad, I did not say that. Again, the text was out of context, and again, they did not check with me. And you were so concerned with it was one text, or it was two texts, not one, or one, and I was like, oh, I thought it was one with 2 lines. I know, okay, fine, it is 2 individual texts, 1 line each. Like, oh my God, that's something to be upset about. Just like the 2 references. You get it? They like to do things like that. They like to point out things. Oh, that's like that. We're getting them hung up on the 2 versus 1, just like with the context. Now we got them hung up on the 2 versus 1. They do that. Again, pretend I am telling the truth. Oh my God, can you believe how you've reacted to it? Oh my God, what is keep going through? Oh my God, we have to do something about it. It would have saved me a lot. It would have saved you a lot of money if you had reacted that way. I still wouldn't be here depending on you, because the case would have been broken open. And again, there are hundreds or thousands of victims in this, just in the Austin area and Travis County area alone. I am not making this up. I am not someone who thinks normally people are out to get them. I'm not someone that subscribes to conspiracy theories. If you read my fucking document, you should praise it for how well balanced it is. I do not put hardly any opinions in there, unless I'm talking about how I did feel at a certain time or how I was feeling, and I'm very clear about that. I'm so careful to give the benefit of the doubt to the cops or to someone that may have appeared sketchy at the time, to point out this is how they get people to think people are out to get them or doing something. One example is the guy when I was in 409, which they like to play with numbers. And again, 409 just happened to be the complete total monthly bill for that hotel stay, or 4 weeks there. It was 408, whatever, rounded to 409. And I happened to be in room 409. And when I thought something was going on in 309, I went down there because it sounded like someone was down there pushing something against the ceiling, and I felt like this woo, woo, woo going through my body, which again cannot be caused by anything internal. And I went down there, and a janitor was rushing to the door and went in there before I could knock on it to see if someone was in there. Now that would appear like he was responding to something, and someone sent them there, like, and that he was in on it or something, and that could have been how someone interpreted it, which is what I was suspecting possibly at the time. But then again, if you read that document, you will note, I'm like, this is an example of how they do something. What could have happened, and probably did happen, is they somehow knew he was going to go to 309 and made me think that there was something going on in 309, and then like did the order of events, and like where it made it look like he was, where it was a cause and effect, just like you're thinking with the meth and whatever. It's not the cause, it is the result. It is the coping mechanism. Look how careful I am to document it that way. That should be praised. That should be something that you should be proud of, how careful I am to document something like that. And in these videos, I'm normally like very calm, and I'm still very calm, and I'm still being mostly polite. But if someone's being an ass, first of all, you called me an ass, and said so many rude, hateful things to me when I was being nothing but polite and respectful to you. Like in that 3-way text with Tom, in which he was half-ass correcting a record, in which I was not threatening his daughters. And I was like, just to be clear, because he's not spelling it out, he's kind of like doing this whole praise thing, but he's not saying specifically one of the many things he was supposed to say. And I was like, just to be clear, since we're in a 3-way text now after what Tom said, just be clear so we can just get this out and behind us. I did not send anything that could have been threatening, and it could not have even been perceived like that, or interpreted that way. And you were like, Kip, you're such an ass, or you're an ass. No, I'm not. You're a fucking asshole. You need to look at that again, because that was one of the billion times that you treated me like shit. Again, I know you're probably not going to watch this, or if you are, you're not going to respond to it, and if you are, you're not going to do the right thing anyway. Whether you know or not know, you're not doing the right thing. Whether you believe me or disbelieve, or don't believe me or disbelieve me, you're not doing the right thing. Again, I didn't come down with multiple personality disorder. I'm not making up accents when I say that they speak through me. And again, I don't think they're taking over my body or whatever. I'm telling you, that's how voice-to-skull technology can be used. Magicians and mentalists have been using it for years. It's been around for over 50 years. And again, that's something that you believed, and then you didn't believe, and then you believed again, and you're flip-flopping, and then you tell me that I'm inconsistent. I'm like, I've always been consistent in my stories. I understand if you're not consistent because you're not the person that went through what I went through and have lived it, But again, you can reference it yourself in the videos and in the documents. God, you're so, I hate you so fucking much. Like, I'm sitting here and it's like I may not be here in 5 minutes or in an hour or in a day because they might kill me, and who knows what else I've not done. Who knows what effects have happened from the additional 2.5 years or more of this nonsense because you didn't do anything, and you yelled at me, you griped at me for not getting a second contact, and then you said I had a $5,000 budget. Just hire a fucking private investigator. First of all, it doesn't need $5,000 to start it, and secondly, even if it was $5,000 or $50,000, that wouldn't be anything to you. I'm not saying I know you're not like a rich mogul, but again, it would not hurt you. And again, it's just to look into things with a third-party perspective that haven't been looked into at all by anyone. That should not be something that you would ever have any objection against, and it should not be something that you put additional conditions on after the fact. It should just be something that you do. If I'm this hung up on it, you should just do it. Because I got to tell you, like, if you you have to do that. And if you don't do that, it doesn't matter. We're done anyway. If you don't do that, I'm going to suffer even longer. If you don't get me out of here and Max to rescue the exact way that I told you to, we're going to suffer longer. Well, you think I'm up in the air when I go to Boston, and then oh my God, then it all stops. And then I come back and I land in Austin. Oh, it starts up again. Oh, I'm just magically in oh no, maybe it's like a nerve damage and maybe it's an altitude thing. No. Think. You're not thinking logically, stupid motherfucker. And again, you're going to get all defensive and whatever, and they're going to make you all angry listening to this video. It's like, if you get angry when I correct you on things or point out things, normally I don't point them out to you this way. Normally I'm very calm, I'm very nice about it. I send it very politely. I'm like, no, this is how it happened, blah, blah, blah. I'll link you to a video or to text, or I'll just retype it all over again. And it's like, and then you say that you get angry when I correct your recollection of something that you didn't live through and you didn't experience. Well, maybe they took blood from the second draw. Why would I be mad about that, Dad? I had already done the draw. Then she stuck me with an inappropriate sized needle and then immediately threw it in something and smiled at me spitefully. She wasn't trying it. No, she stabbed me and then threw it in the thing. That quickly. It's like, how angry do you think it makes me feel when you don't believe me, when I'm telling the truth? Again, you're the one doing the same thing and expecting different results. Why don't you try doing what I have asked you to do from the very beginning? To rescue me, an investigation. That wouldn't cost you that much money. It would be less cost than sending me off to some rehab that I don't need. Do you see me am I jonesing? Am I going? No, I don't. Because first of all, it doesn't have any, first of all, nothing happens when you come off it. Whatever. It's I'm fine. Except for this shit. I'm still going through it. I'm not better at all. It's getting worse every single day. And you are partially at fault for that. It was not this bad at the Grove. You could have stopped this, and you didn't, and you're still choosing not to. What would happen if I wasn't here tomorrow, Dad? How would you feel about that? When you feel like that would be a good argument to say, oh, I didn't give you a second contact, or I gave him a budget, but then he has to do the legwork of hire the people, knowing that these people are watching me. If you believe me, think about it again. If you believe me, or pretend to believe me, if I hire someone, and I know they may be on you, you can say the same argument, but still, you can do it more easily than me. Again. Do you think, and I'm happy to talk with them too after you set something up, but it's they'll know when they come, or they'll again, and the Austin area didn't have many contacts, so I sent you one, and I said I'm under attack, I really need your help to find the second one, I really need your help to find someone, blah blah blah. Oh no, you didn't get a second contact because I can't Google it myself. Does that make sense to you? What if I wasn't here tomorrow? Would you still be arguing that? Would you still be like, oh, it's a good thing I stuck and I didn't